Good afternoon, children. Yesterday we began a detective fiction EVANS tries an O level. We read the governor of the Oxford prison contacts the secretary of the examination board on telephone in early March in connection with one of his prisoners who wants to appear in O level German examination to be held on June 8th. The name of the prisoner is James Roderick Evans, who is dead keen to improve his academic qualification. After getting cursory details about the examinee regarding his nature, the examination room and its safety, the candidates remaining incommunicado, the secretary agrees to make arrangement of a parson from St. Mary Max to act as an invigilator and promises to send relevant papers through him. Now let's see what happens. What are the worries of the governor and how does he become a little liberal by making sit Evans in his own cell and writing the exam. We are on page number 72, children. Evans the Break, as the prison officers called him. Thrice he had escaped from prison, and but for the recent wave of unrest in the maximum security establishments up north, he wouldn't now be gracing the governor's premises in Oxford, and the governor was going to make absolutely certain that he wouldn't be disgracing them. So, children, Evans was called and popularly known as by the prison officers Evans the Break because 3 times he had escaped from prison. Now the question arises in the reader's mind is that why was still the governor taking chances with him and providing him opportunity of learning or writing the O-level German examination. Governor had made complete security establishments, maximum security he could afford, and he wanted to find out that if Evans was planning to run from the Oxford prison, in what conditions he runs. He had made absolutely certain the situations that he should not insult them, disgrace them by running away because they were providing him the chances of learning. Not that Evans was a real burden, just a persistent, nagging presence. Evans was not a burden. It was not so that people did not bear him at the prison or they could not bear him, keep him in the prison. But he was continuously an interruption. Continuously his presence made them irritating. The reason is that they had to be extra cautious with him. They had to be extra careful with him because he was an intelligent fellow and now and then he was making plans for escape. Therefore, his presence was very irritating. He would be all right in Oxford, though the governor would see to that, would see to it personally. And besides, there was just a possibility that Evans was genuinely interested in O-level German. Everybody at the prison talked about it. Evans was not dead keen to get academic qualification according to them, but it was his master plan to escape. And governor wanted to find out if he wanted to escape, what conditions would lead to his escape. Governor was making the conditions unfavorable for him to escape. Everyone knew that he was not at all interested in O-level German. So it could be his master plan of escape. Just a slight possibility. Just a very slight possibility. At 8:30 p.m. on Monday 7, Evans, German teacher, shook him by the hand in heavily guarded recreational block just across from D Wing. Good luck, here Evans. And pardon means please repeat. I said good luck for tomorrow. So the German teacher spoke in German the two words good luck that were not understood by Evans. Now the second question that rises in the mind of the students is that if the child is appearing for the examination the next day, if the student is appearing for the examination the next day, then how could it be possible that he did not understood two simple words like guten luck? Oh, thanks. Danke ist gone. Then he spoke in German. You haven't a cat in hell's chance of getting through, of course, but Miss dash dash dash. There is something hidden in the speech. So teacher says that there is a least possibility of you to get past, but still means you have something. Like I may surprise everybody, said Evans. At 8:30 the following morning, Evans had a visitor. Two visitors, in fact. He tucked his grubby string vest in his equally grubby trousers. Grubby means, children, here dirty. So, dirty clothes he was wearing. Morning, Mr. Jackson. This is indeed an honor. Jackson was senior prison officer on D Wing, and he and Evans had already become warm enemies. Why? Because in the prior para also we have learned that his presence was very irritating as the people had to be extra cautious and careful with him. So here when he came and Mr. Jackson was greeted by Evans, then they were both in a stern position with each other. At Jackson's side stood Officer Stephens, a burly, surly looking man. Burly, big, strong, and heavy, and surly is bad tempered and rude. So, burly, surly looking man appeared. His name was Stephens. Only recently recruited to the profession. He was recently appointed. So, he was a new person there. Jackson nodded curtly, rudely. And how's our little Einstein this morning then? Wasn't he a mathematician, Mr. Jackson? So Evans says that why was he referred to as Einstein? Because Einstein was a mathematician and he, beside, is writing the German examination. I think he was a Jew, Mr. Jackson. So he said. Ivan's face was unshaven and he wore a filthy looking red and white bobble hat upon his head. Underline this part, children. So he was unshaven and he was appearing to be very dirty with the dirty hat upon his head. Give me a chance, Mr. Jackson. I was just going to shave when you burst in. So he took an excuse with Mr. Jackson that he was just removing his beard. Bobble is, children, a small wooden ball used as a decoration on a hat. Here actually Jackson is amazed looking at the hat that Evans is wearing. Now let's see what he says further. Which reminds me, Jackson turned his eyes on Stephens. Make sure you take his razor out of the sill when he's finished scrubbing that ugly mug of his. Ugly mug of his is beard that he is referring to. So he says that as soon as Evans removes his beard, his shaving razor should be taken away. Clear? One of these days he will do us all a favor and cut his bloody throat. So Jackson, out of irritation, said this. For a few seconds, Evans looked thoughtfully at the man standing ramrod straight in front of him. Ramrod straight means, children, of a person with a very straight back and looking serious and formal. So here it is referred to Mr. Jackson. A string of Second World War medals proudly paraded over his left breast pocket. Mr. Jackson, was it you who took my nail scissors away? So he's asking him, was it you who took my nail scissors away? That suggests irritation of Evans. Evans, we already know, is a kleptomaniac, one who has a habit of stealing. And from him, if somebody steals the things he doesn't like at all, and therefore he is asking. Evans had always worried about his hands, so he particularly worried about his hands. The nails were trimmed always. And your nail file too. Look, for a moment, Evans' eyes smoldered dangerously. Smoldered means burnt. He was very irritated. But Jackson was ready for him. Means if Jackson would have spoken or done something to him, Evans was also ready. And if Evans spoke or did something to Mr. Jackson was also ready to deal with him. Orders of the Governor Evans. So he made it clear. The officer, that is Mr. Jackson, made it clear that he has worked under the orders of the governor. He leaned forward and leered. Leered means looked or smiled in an unpleasant way. His voice dropping to a harsh, contemptuous whisper. Contemptuous, scornful. Hated, like full of hate. You want to complain? Evans shrugged his shoulders. So he just shrugged his shoulders because he could not do anything. Because Mr. Jackson had cleared his things that he had worked under the guidance of the governor. And if Evans had to stay in the cell and do the things accordingly, whatever he wanted, then he had to follow the guidance of the governor or instructions of the governor. Everyone else also. So here he says the crisis was over. The writer says crisis was over means it would have been if any other place would have been there, or if this excuse would have not been there with Mr. Jackson that this was the order of the governor, then it might have been possible that they would both would have a fight with each other. You have got half an hour to smarten yourself, Evans, and take that bloody hat off. Me hat? Evans put his right hand lovingly on the top of the filthy woolen and smiled sadly. Do you know, Mr. Jackson, it's the only thing that's ever brought me any sort of luck in life. Kind of lucky charm. If you know what I mean. And today I thought, well, with me exam and all that. Buried somewhere in Jackson was a tiny core of compassion. And Evans knew it. So children, Evans took an advantage of the compassionate, loving heart of Mr. Jackson, and therefore he took an excuse to keep the hat on his head, saying that it was a lucky charm for him and he wanted to write the exam wearing that hat along with that lucky charm.